The crystalline spires of the Lysarian imperial palace pierced the violet sky like frozen lightning, their surfaces refracting the light of 3 moons into prismatic displays that dazzled the eye. Commander Sarah Chen stood at attention in her formal diplomatic uniform, trying not to show her discomfort as the environmental systems struggled to compensate for the higher gravity of Lysar Prime. After 15 years in the Terran Space Force, she thought she'd seen it all. She was wrong. The Lysarian Imperial Guard towered over her, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with each movement. Their ceremonial armor, carved from living crystal, amplified their already imposing presence. Sarah maintained her composure, remembering the briefing that had brought her here. The Lysarians value strength above all else, Commander. Show any weakness, and the mission fails before it begins. The massive doors before her, etched with the history of 1,000 battles, swung open silently. The throne room beyond defied human architecture, with geometric patterns that seemed to fold in on themselves in ways that made her eyes water. Scattered throughout were members of the Lysarian court, their scaled bodies adorned with crystalline growths that marked their noble status. On the crystalline throne sat Emperor Vexthor, his scales a deep azure that marked the royal bloodline. But it was the figure beside him that caught Sarah's attention. Princess Vera stood with perfect stillness, her scales a pale, almost translucent white. Unlike the other Lysarians, whose bodies were adorned with naturally occurring crystal growths, Vera's entire skeletal structure was visible beneath her scales, a latticework of living crystal that gleamed with its own inner light. "The human ambassador approaches," announced the herald, his voice resonating through the chamber in harmonics that made Sarah's teeth ache. Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Space Force. Sarah advanced precisely 13 steps, the number of founding houses in the Lysarian Empire, before executing the traditional greeting. "Your Imperial Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth and the United Terran Worlds." Emperor Vexthor's multifaceted eyes studied her with the intensity of a predator assessing prey. "Commander Chen, your reputation precedes you. The Battle of Rigel Delta. Impressive for a human." "Your Majesty honors me by remembering," Sarah replied carefully. The battle had been a turning point in human-alien relations, where she'd sacrificed her ship to save a Lysarian colony from pirates. The scars across her back twinged at the memory. Indeed, the Emperor's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. "Which is why you are here. My daughter, Princess Vera, requires unique protection." Sarah's eyes flickered to the princess, noting how the other courtiers maintained a subtle distance from her. The princess met her gaze without flinching, and Sarah saw intelligence and steel in those crystalline eyes. 3 assassination attempts in the past lunar cycle. Vera spoke, her voice carrying unexpected warmth despite its crystalline undertones. "The latest assassin was quite skilled. He only failed because my condition makes traditional methods of elimination somewhat challenging." Sarah's tactical mind immediately began processing implications. The princess's crystalline skeleton would indeed make her harder to kill by conventional means, but the way Vera spoke of her condition suggested it was seen as a weakness rather than an advantage. "The court whispers that my daughter is unfit to rule," Emperor Vexthor rumbled, his scales darkening with anger. "They call her the Crystal Princess, not as an honor, but a curse. She was born this way. A mutation, they say, makes her unworthy of the throne." And yet, Sarah observed carefully, she survived 3 assassination attempts where others might have fallen. A ripple of surprise moved through the court. Princess Vera's head tilted slightly, reassessing Sarah with newfound interest. "Precisely why you are here, Commander," the Emperor continued. "The Lysarian Guard is compromised. We require someone outside our political sphere, someone with proven loyalty, combat expertise, and no ties to our noble houses. And someone," Vera added, stepping forward, "who sees beyond surface appearances to true strength." Her crystalline skeleton caught the light, creating rainbow patterns across the floor. "Will you accept this assignment, Commander Chen. Sarah understood then why she'd been chosen. Humans were considered physically weak by Lysarian standards, yet she'd earned their respect through actions rather than appearance, just as the princess had to prove herself beyond her physical differences. "I accept, Your Highness," Sarah replied, noting the subtle shift in the court's atmosphere. "Though I should warn you, my protection style tends to be rather proactive." The corner of Vera's mouth curved up slightly, crystal chiming softly as she moved. "Good, because my style tends to be rather provocative." She gestured to a massive warrior wearing the insignia of House Krell. "Lord Krell here was just suggesting that perhaps I should withdraw from public life, for my own safety, of course." Sarah sized up the warrior, noting the way his scales bristled with barely contained contempt. "Then perhaps Lord Krell would care to demonstrate his concern in the training arena. I find physical demonstrations quite educational." A shocked murmur ran through the court. Lord Krell's scales flushed dark with anger, but protocol prevented him from refusing such a challenge. Emperor Vexthor's crystalline growths chimed with what might have been laughter. "It seems, daughter, that your new protector understands our ways better than expected. Commander Chen, welcome to the Imperial Court. Try not to break too many of our warriors during your stay." As Sarah followed Princess Vera from the throne room, she caught fragments of whispered conversations. The court was already buzzing with speculation about the human who dared to challenge their traditions. Perfect. Better they focus on her than on the princess. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of changes that would shake the Lysarian Empire to its crystalline core. The training arena of the Imperial Palace resembled a geometric nightmare, its crystalline walls shifting and realigning to create ever-changing battle environments. Sarah stood at its center, her breath steady despite the match that had just concluded. Lord Krell lay groaning nearby, his impressive bulk brought low by leverage and precise strikes to weak points in his crystalline armor. Princess Vera observed from her position at the arena's edge, her crystalline skeleton catching the light as she moved forward. "Fascinating. You exploited the resonant frequency of his armor's crystal structure." "Basic physics," Sarah replied, helping the defeated warrior to his feet. "Everything has a breaking point. The trick is finding it." She met Lord Krell's multifaceted eyes. "An excellent match, my lord. Your reputation for strength is well deserved." The Lysarian warrior managed a grudging nod before limping away, his scales dark with humiliation. Around the arena, other noble warriors watched with newfound wariness. In the 3 weeks since Sarah's arrival, she'd faced 6 challenges, and won each one, not through brute force, but through strategy and skill. "You've made quite an impression," Vera noted as they walked through the palace corridors. "Though not all of it positive. The noble houses are demanding an audience with my father. They claim having a human as my protector diminishes the imperial dignity." Sarah's mouth quirked. "More or less than having a crystal princess." "Careful, Commander." But there was amusement in Vera's voice. Those words from any other would be treason. She paused at a window overlooking the capital city, its crystalline towers reflecting the sunset in rainbow cascades. "Though you're not wrong. My condition has been a political weapon since birth." A group of courtiers approached, led by Lady Selvera of House Drell. The noble's scales rippled with barely concealed disdain as she performed the minimal bow required by protocol. "Princess, we missed you at this morning's declaration of houses." "I was training," Vera replied coolly. "Commander Chen has been most instructive in adapting combat techniques to accommodate my unique attributes." Lady Selvera's crystalline growths chimed discordantly. "Indeed, how fortunate to have such a specialized instructor. Though one wonders if learning human combat methods might further distance you from our traditions." Sarah watched the verbal sparring with growing appreciation for Vera's restraint. The princess's condition made her stronger in some ways, her crystalline bones nearly unbreakable, but the cultural stigma was a constant battle. "Tradition evolves, Lady Selvera," Vera responded, "as must we all." She gestured to the city below. Our empire spans galaxies, yet we cling to prejudices that limit our potential. Perhaps it's time for new traditions. The noble scales darken dangerously. Careful, princess. Such talk borders on heresy. The sacred texts are clear about the purity required for succession. The same texts that speak of strength and honor. Sarah interjected mildly. Fascinating how selective interpretation can be. Before Lady Selvera could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace. Sarah's combat instincts kicked in as she noted multiple security breaches on her neural link. Multiple intruders, high-speed approach vectors. Your Highness, we need to move. The attack came from 3 directions simultaneously. Shadow-cloaked figures emerged from supposedly secure corridors, wielding weapons that pulsed with dark energy. Sarah pushed Vera behind her, drawing her modified pulse pistol in one smooth motion. Down, she shouted as the first energy blast sizzled through the space where they'd been standing. Lady Selvera and her entourage scattered, their ceremonial weapons useless against the advanced tech of the assassins. But Vera didn't run. Instead, she moved with fluid grace, her crystalline skeleton allowing her to dodge energy blasts that would have vaporized normal beings. Commander, the resonance frequency. Sarah understood instantly. She adjusted her weapon settings and fired at the crystalline walls. The shot created a cascading harmonic that shattered the assassins' cloaking fields, revealing their positions. Working in perfect synchronization, Sarah and Vera took down the attackers. The princess's crystalline structure actually amplified the defensive techniques Sarah had taught her, turning her supposed weakness into a devastating advantage. When palace security finally arrived, they found 3 disabled assassins, a shaken group of nobles, and the princess standing tall beside her human protector. Impressive response time, Sarah commented to the late-arriving guards, her tone dry. She knelt to examine one of the unconscious attackers, noting the high-end tech and something else. Your Highness, these weapons, they're Lysarian military grade. Vera's expression hardened, which means either our security has been compromised at the highest levels, or someone in the noble houses is moving against you directly. Sarah finished. She caught Lady Selvera trying to slip away. Lady Selvera, I believe we'd benefit from your insights on this matter. After all, you were conveniently present just before the attack. The noble scales paled. You dare accuse. I dare to protect my charge. Sarah cut her off. And unlike some, I don't hide behind tradition when lives are at stake. She turned to Vera. Your Highness, I recommend a full security audit, starting with communications between certain noble houses. Vera nodded, her crystalline form catching the light like frozen fire. Agreed. And Commander, let's stop playing defensive. It's time to take this fight to them. As they left the shaken nobles behind, Sarah caught Vera's subtle smile. The princess was right. Change was coming to the Lysarian Empire, whether they were ready or not. And Sarah was beginning to think that Vera's weakness might be exactly what her people needed to evolve beyond their crystalline cage of tradition. Deep in the secure wing of the Imperial Palace, Sarah studied the holographic display of intercepted communications. The crystalline data nodes pulse with encrypted transmissions between noble houses, forming patterns that made her head ache. Princess Vera stood beside her, her own crystalline structure resonating slightly with the technology around them. House Trell, House Krell, House Vexnor, Sarah muttered, marking connections between suspicious transmissions. All opposed to your succession, all with military connections, and all mysteriously absent during the last 3 assassination attempts. And all led by those who consider my existence an abomination. Vera added, her voice carrying no trace of self-pity. She traced a pattern in the holographic web. Look here, unusual resource movements through their mining operations. Sarah nodded, expanding that section of data. Enough raw crystal to build a small army's worth of weapons. But that's not what concerns me most. She highlighted a series of encrypted quantum bursts. These communications are going off-world. Someone's coordinating with forces outside the Empire. A soft chime announced Emperor Vexthor's arrival. The massive Lysarian ruler studied the evidence, his scales darkening with rage. The crystalline covenant. They're supposed to be myth. Radical purists who believe any deviation from traditional Lysarian form must be eliminated. Myths don't requisition military-grade quantum disruptors, Sarah pointed out. She discovered the weapons cache during a covert operation the previous night, following leads from Lady Selvar's interrogation. They're planning something big, Your Majesty. The assassination attempts were just probing attacks. Vera's crystalline structure caught the light as she turned to her father. The succession ceremony. They'll strike during the ritual combat. Sarah frowned. Ritual combat. The final test before ascending to heir apparent. Emperor Vexthor explained. The candidate must face champions from each noble house in single combat. It's meant to prove their worth to lead. It's meant to kill me, Vera said bluntly. My condition makes me stronger in some ways, but the resonance frequencies of ceremonial weapons could shatter my crystalline structure. They're counting on it. Sarah's tactical mind was already calculating possibilities. Then we change the game. Your Highness, how familiar are you with human martial arts? Before Vera could respond, alarms blared throughout the secure wing. Sarah's neural link flashed with multiple security breaches. We have incoming. Multiple targets, heavily armed. The doors exploded inward as crystalline warriors in Shadowtech armor stormed the room. Their weapons hummed with frequencies designed to shatter crystal, lethal to Lysarians. Sarah moved instantly, placing herself between the attackers and the royal family. Protect the Emperor, she shouted, engaging her combat augments. Time seemed to slow as her enhanced reflexes kicked in. She dove into the attackers, her modified pulse pistol disrupting their armor's crystalline matrix. Vera proved equally formidable. Rather than retreating, she used the techniques Sarah had taught her, turning her crystalline nature into an advantage. She moved with impossible grace, her structure actually absorbing and redirecting the enemy's energy weapons. The data cores. Vera called out. They're not here to kill us. They're after the evidence. Sarah cursed as she saw more attackers heading for the holographic displays. She couldn't reach them in time, not while protecting the Emperor. But then something remarkable happened. Emperor Vexthor, who hadn't seen combat in decades, drew himself up to his full height. His scales blazed with internal light as he activated ancient command protocols in his crystalline crown. The palace security systems responded, crystalline walls shifting to trap several attackers. No one threatens my daughter. The Emperor's voice resonated through the chamber, making the very air vibrate. No one threatens our future. The battle was fierce but brief. When it ended, Sarah stood among unconscious or disabled attackers, her combat augments powering down. She'd sustained several injuries, but nothing critical. The Emperor was unharmed, and Vera stood in the center of the room, her crystalline skeleton glowing with absorbed energy. The attack had proven what Sarah had suspected. Her condition wasn't a weakness, but an evolution. She'd taken hits that would have killed any normal Lysarian and turned them into weapons. Commander, Vera said, helping Sarah steady herself. I believe we've identified our conspirators. She nodded toward one of the disabled attackers, whose armor bore House Krell's secret sigil. Indeed, Sarah managed a grim smile. But this was just their first move. They'll have contingencies. Emperor Vexthor moved to examine the damaged data cores. Some information survived. Enough to prove the conspiracy. But proof won't matter. Vera finished. They'll claim the evidence was fabricated. This has to end in the traditional way, through combat. Sarah met the princess's crystalline gaze. Then we'll be ready. Your condition isn't just about survival anymore, Your Highness. It's about evolution. And it's time your people saw that. Vera nodded, her expression hardening with determination. The succession ceremony is in 3 days. They think they've destroyed the evidence and weakened our position. Her crystalline form caught the light, creating prismatic patterns that seemed to shimmer with power. Let them think that. When the time comes, we'll show them what true strength looks like. As they began planning their response, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The conspirators had wanted to eliminate a princess they saw as flawed. Instead, they were about to face something unprecedented, a human-trained Lysarian warrior who had transformed her supposed weakness into her greatest strength. The old guard wanted tradition. They were about to see tradition evolve. The ancient arena of succession stretched before them like a vast crystalline bowl, its translucent walls refracting the light of 3 moons. Thousands of Lysarians filled the tiered seating, their scales creating a rippling rainbow effect as they moved. Below in the arena proper, champions from each noble house stood ready, their ceremonial weapons humming with deadly resonance frequencies. Sarah watched from her position near the royal viewing box as Princess Vera prepared for combat. They'd spent the last 3 days training intensively, refining techniques that would turn the princess's unique crystalline structure into an advantage. But both knew their enemies had more planned than just ritual combat. "The weapon scan is complete," Sarah murmured into her neural link. 3 champions are carrying non-traditional modifications. House Krell's representative has a quantum destabilizer built into his blade. Vera adjusted her ceremonial armor, its crystalline surfaces catching the light. As expected, they'll wait until I'm weakened before revealing their true intentions. Emperor Vexthor rose from his throne, his voice carrying across the arena. Today, Princess Vera proved her right to succession through the ancient trial of combat. Let all witness her strength and honor. The crowd's response was mixed. Support from some sections, hostile silence from others. Sarah noted the positions of known conspiracy supporters, her combat augments ready to activate at the first sign of trouble. The first 3 matches went as they planned. Vera faced champions from minor houses, using their own strength against them while conserving her energy. Her crystalline structure, once considered a defect, allowed her to absorb and redirect kinetic energy in ways that left her opponents stunned. Then came House Drell's champion. The warrior was massive even by Lysarian standards, his weapon crackling with barely legal energy levels. As the fight began, Sarah detected unusual power signatures in the arena's crystalline walls. They're activating something in the structure itself, she warned through their secure channel. Be ready. The Drell champion pressed his attack, his blade singing through the air. But Vera had been trained by a human who understood that size wasn't everything. She moved like liquid crystal, each strike flowing into a counter that gradually wore down her larger opponent. Suddenly, the arena walls pulsed with energy. Harmonic frequencies began building, designed to interfere with Lysarian crystalline structures. Many in the crowd cried out in discomfort, but Vera remained standing. Her unique biology actually absorbed the attack, her form beginning to glow with accumulated power. "Impossible," the Drell champion shouted. "You should be shattered." Vera's response was a combination move Sarah had taught her, a redirect of his own strength followed by a precise strike that sent him crashing to the ground. "Evolution," she announced loudly enough for all to hear, "is not a flaw." The final match was against House Krell's champion, Lord Krell himself. As he stepped into the arena, Sarah detected multiple power signatures activating throughout the crowd. The conspiracy was making its move. "Multiple hostile targets," she reported. "They're going to try to take control of the arena systems." The Emperor's voice came through the secure channel. "Our forces are in position, Commander. When they strike, we strike back." Vera finished, facing Lord Krell. The match began brutally. Krell was a seasoned warrior who'd clearly studied Vera's previous fights. His quantum-enhanced blade created distortion fields designed to disrupt her crystalline structure. But Vera had been holding back until now. As Krell pressed what he thought was an advantage, Vera unleashed everything Sarah had taught her. Her crystalline form moved with impossible speed, each strike amplified by absorbed energy from the previous attacks. She was literally turning their own weapons against them. That's when the conspiracy showed its hand. Multiple explosions rocked the arena as hidden devices activated, sending destructive harmonics through the crystalline structure. Chaos erupted as warriors loyal to House Krell and their allies emerged from the crowd. But Sarah and the Emperor were ready. Hidden security forces engaged the conspirators, while Sarah activated countermeasures they'd built into the arena. The hostile frequencies were absorbed and redirected, creating a spectacular light show as energy cascaded through the crystalline walls. In the arena below, Vera faced Lord Krell in what had become more than just ritual combat. It was a battle between tradition and evolution, between fear of change and the courage to embrace it. "Your kind has no place in our future," Krell snarled, his blade burning with killing energy. Vera caught the blade with her crystalline-enhanced hands, her structure glowing with accumulated power. "You're wrong. I am your future." The energy release was blinding. When the light faded, Lord Krell lay defeated, his quantum-enhanced weapon shattered. Vera stood over him, her crystalline form radiating power that had been freely given rather than taken by force. Sarah smiled as she watched the princess address the stunned crowd. They'd done more than just stop a conspiracy. They'd shown the Lysarian Empire a new kind of strength, one that came not from rigid adherence to tradition, but from the courage to evolve. As the dust settled and imperial forces secured the conspirators, Sarah caught Vera's eye. The princess nodded slightly, acknowledging what they both knew. The real challenge was just beginning. Change never came easily, especially to an empire built on crystalline traditions. But they'd proven that the strongest crystals weren't the ones that never changed. They were the ones that could adapt without breaking. 1 month after the succession ceremony, the imperial palace hummed with an energy unlike anything in its crystalline history. Representatives from every corner of the Lysarian Empire gathered in the Grand Assembly Chamber, their scaled forms creating a living tapestry of color and light. But unlike previous gatherings, this one included something new. Delegates from other species, including a significant human contingent. Sarah stood at her post near the newly modified throne, her formal diplomatic uniform now bearing both Terran and Lysarian insignias. She watched as Princess Vera, soon to be crown princess, prepared to address the assembly. The princess's crystalline structure had only grown more impressive since the battle, now naturally forming patterns that even traditionalists had to admit were beautiful. "Quite a change from my first day here," Sarah remarked quietly as Vera approached. "Though I notice Lord Krell's supporters are still giving us the cold shoulder." "Let them," Vera replied, her voice carrying the confidence of one who had earned her place. "They'll adapt, or they'll fade into history. Either way, the Empire moves forward." The last month had brought dramatic changes. The conspiracy's exposure had forced the noble houses to confront centuries of prejudice. More importantly, scientific analysis of Vera's unique biology had revealed something shocking. Her crystalline condition wasn't a mutation, but rather the first expression of the Lysarian species' natural evolution. Emperor Vexthor rose from his throne, his scales gleaming with pride. "My people," his voice resonated through the chamber. "We gather today not just to formally recognize my daughter's right of succession, but to embrace a new era for our empire." The emperor gestured to the assembled alien delegates. "For too long we viewed our crystalline nature as something that set us apart, made us superior. We forgot that the strongest crystals are those that form bonds with others." Vera stepped forward, her form catching the light in ways that created prismatic patterns across the chamber. "The recent attempts to prevent my succession weren't just attacks on me," she declared. "They were attacks on our future. Those who claimed to protect our traditions were actually fighting against our own evolution." Sarah watched the crowd's reaction, noting how the younger Lysarians particularly seemed moved by Vera's words. They saw in her what Sarah had seen from the beginning. Not a flaw in their perfect crystalline society, but a bridge to something greater. "Commander Chen," Vera continued, turning to face Sarah, "taught me that strength comes in many forms. By learning to adapt human combat techniques to my unique biology, I discovered abilities no traditional Lizarian training could have revealed. She raised her hand, demonstrating how her crystalline structure could now consciously redirect and focus energy in ways that seemed almost magical. This is not a corruption of our nature, but its fulfillment. And we are not alone in this journey. The chamber's crystalline walls shifted, revealing holographic displays of medical data. Studies of my condition have identified similar potential in 15% of our youth. We are evolving, not toward uniformity, but toward diversity. Each unique expression of our crystalline nature brings new possibilities. Sarah stepped forward at Vera's gesture. The Terran Science Council offers its full support in understanding and nurturing these changes, she announced. In return, your crystalline technology could revolutionize human medical treatment. Together, we grow stronger. Emperor Vexthor's scales rippled with approval. Therefore, by imperial decree, I announced two historic changes. First, the formation of the Evolution Council, led by Princess Vera, to support and study these natural changes in our people. A murmur ran through the crowd, but the Emperor wasn't finished. Second, the creation of a permanent human-Lizarian cultural exchange, with Commander Chen as its first director. Sarah managed to hide her surprise. This hadn't been part of the briefing. She caught Vera's subtle smile and realized the princess had planned this particular revelation. The old ways told us that change was weakness. Vera addressed the assembly. That differences must be eliminated, but look at what we've achieved by embracing change. She gestured to the chamber, where crystalline technology now worked in harmony with human innovations. This is just the beginning. As the assembly erupted in discussion, Sarah moved closer to Vera. Cultural Exchange Director, you might have warned me. And missed that look on your face. Vera's crystalline form chimed with amusement. Besides, who better to guide our peoples toward cooperation than the human who saw strength where others saw flaws? Sarah looked out over the assembly, where humans and Lizarians were already forming groups, sharing ideas and possibilities. It won't be easy. Change never is. No, Vera agreed, her crystalline structure catching the light like hope made manifest. But the best crystals form under pressure. And together, we'll build something stronger than either of our peoples could achieve alone. As the assembly continued, Sarah reflected on her journey from reluctant bodyguard to architect of interstellar cooperation. The Lizarians had sought to eliminate what they saw as imperfection, only to discover that their future depended on embracing it. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all, that true strength lay not in rigid perfection, but in the courage to evolve, to change, and to grow. The Crystal Princess and her human protector had done more than save an empire. They'd shown it how to transform, one crystalline heart at a time.